Beginning in the 1960s, exhaust gas emitted by the increasing number of vehicles in the city escalated the problem of air pollution. For example, 120,000 cars per day pass this busy intersection of Loop Line number 7 and the Koshu Highway, so local people living in the neighborhood were constantly under the assault of exhaust fumes. One of those pollutants was carbon monoxide, and at the time, more than 90% of carbon monoxide in the air was caused by vehicle exhaust. The TMG began to measure carbon monoxide, especially at intersections with heavy traffic. In particularly bad months, pollution advisories were being issued once every 10 days. In 1970, the Tokyo Metropolitan Pollution Prevention Ordinance was revised. In order to reduce the amount of carbon monoxide emitted by vehicles in use, a guidance and advisory system was established to promote the installation of exhaust reduction devices, and the system was implemented in 1971. This was the first vehicle exhaust countermeasure to be introduced by a municipality. These efforts help reduce the amount of carbon monoxide being emitted. This is the office of the monitoring section at the Pollution Bureau as it was in 1972. The decision on whether to issue warnings or advisories was made by comparing atmospheric data observations with weather conditions. However, traffic volume continued to increase, as did the use of diesel fuel vehicles, and the city was not able to meet the environmental standards for nitrogen dioxide and suspended particulate matter. Diesel vehicle exhaust was the biggest source of the pollutants found in the skies over Tokyo. At the time, about 50% of the nitrogen oxides and particulate matter emitted within the city came from cars, and most of that was from diesel vehicles. The average diesel vehicles at the time released 1 gram of soot for every 1 kilometer traveled. If 100 vehicles drove a kilometer, the soot emitted would fill a PET bottle. In addition, researchers in various countries had found that this particulate matter was making its way deep into people's lungs and causing respiratory problems. Change Japan from Tokyo. In 1999, the TMG initiated a bold strategy. The No Diesel Vehicle campaign. The Tokyo Metropolitan Environmental Security Ordinance was enacted in 2000 as a complete rewrite of the Tokyo Metropolitan Pollution Prevention Ordinance. The ordinance included a measure to regulate the use of vehicles in use that didn't meet certain standards. The measures were revolutionary for 2 reasons. They targeted vehicles in use, and they were being enacted on the municipal level. It was almost unprecedented, even on a global scale. Next, let's take a closer look at the efforts and results of the No Diesel Vehicle campaign. The oil used in diesel vehicles still contains the sulfur found in crude oil. However, it was necessary to introduce oil with low sulfur content in order to meet diesel vehicle regulation targets for 2 reasons. The first reason was that lowering the amount of sulfur content in diesel fuel would reduce particulate matter levels. The second reason was that it would maximize the performance of particulate matter reduction devices. However, when the No Diesel Vehicle campaign was begun in 1999, the low-sulfur diesel fuel was only available for experimental use, and it was expensive. Low-sulfur diesel fuel wasn't for sale at gasoline stations. But through the efforts of the Petroleum Association of Japan, who answered the city's appeal, low-sulfur diesel fuel was being provided nationwide by April 2003, 21 months ahead of the schedule laid out in the national regulations. This bus is fueled by low-sulfur diesel fuel and fitted with a diesel particulate filter, or DPF. And this is the result. In Japan, the national government was slow to enact regulations regarding particulate matter emitted by new vehicles, and when they did, the standards were insufficient. In cooperation with both domestic and overseas automakers, the TMG promoted the development of particulate matter reduction devices that could be attached to vehicles in use. There are two types of device that reduce particulate matter: diesel particulate filters and diesel oxidation catalysts. DPF devices filter particulate matter out of diesel exhaust gas. Diesel oxidation catalysts use platinum and other catalysts to oxidize the particulate matter in exhaust gas and transform it into carbon dioxide and other harmless substances. One of the great successes of this technological development was the popularization of the diesel oxidation catalyst. When the ordinances was originally enacted, it was thought that DPFs would bear much of the load in the meeting standards. However, the performance of oxidation catalysts was able to be fully harnessed with the introduction of low-sulfur diesel fuel, and many diesel vehicles were able to meet the regulations not only with the DPF, but also through installing the much cheaper oxidation catalysts. In the middle of the difficult economic environment of 2001, a subsidy program was set up to help small and medium-sized transportation companies. Around 50,000 vehicles received the subsidies over the 3 years after the program began. The TMG asked domestic automakers to quickly develop low-emission diesel vehicles. They responded that they would begin to push the development of technologies that will reduce exhaust gas emissions and put their efforts into expanding the manufacture of low-emissions vehicles. Each maker then followed through with their promises, and the development continued to advance. To support trading purchases by small to medium-sized businesses for vehicles that met the new standards, a low-interest loan system was implemented. Approximately 10,000 vehicles were replaced with this program. Moreover, in March 2003, as an emergency measure in response to the looming October implementation deadline, a special financing program was set up. Before the regulations came into force in 2003, illegal diesel vehicle regulators visited each of the 3,771 companies operating more than 20 vehicles to give on-site guidance on how to meet the regulations. Illegal diesel vehicle regulators continue to do their work today. Here, vehicle inspection certificates are being checked to ensure they meet emission standards. "80% of the vehicles that travel through Tokyo come from the 3 prefectures that border Tokyo. For Tokyo and other areas to improve the state of their seriously polluted skies, a broader effort was necessary. That effort began with an agreement made at a 1999 summit of 8 local governments coalition. In 2002, the Leaders Summit established a headquarters for promoting measures to regulate diesel vehicles. Around this time, the prefectures of Saitama, Chiba, and Kanagawa all laid down regulations that were essentially the same as Tokyo's. Finally, with the cooperation of businesses, citizens and organizations such as the Tokyo Trucking Association and Tokyo Bus Association. These efforts led to the simultaneous implementation of diesel vehicle emission regulations in Tokyo and 3 prefectures on October 1st, 2003. This introduction of broad area environmental controls by regional governments was completely unprecedented. This is what Ohara intersection on loop line number 7 looked like in the past. But What is the situation of atmosphere environment here now? Near the intersection, there is a roadside air pollution monitoring station alongside the Koshu Highway. The nitrogen dioxide levels on this day have met the environmental standards.